Hey there YouTube, it's your boy Jeff Rosado, and I'm back at it again with another deck tech video. So this video is going to be a little bit different than my normal deck tech videos. So for starters, I have a very special surprise here for everyone. I've been waiting all week to open this, and I'm very excited to crack this open. But before I do, I wanted to give a very special thank you to Elvira Shakarova. For those of you who don't know, Elvira is one of Sorcery's amazing artists, and she produces artwork such as the Selfsame Simulacrum, the Immortal Throne, the 4 Mixes, and my absolute favorite, the Elementalist. So I recently interviewed her so I can share her amazing journey, and I admit, I was a bit nervous, but Elvira's great sense of humor lightened up the mood, and she was very open to my questions. So what led Elvira to becoming a great artist and getting involved with Sorcery? She blames her old boyfriend's mom, and if it wasn't for her, Elvira wouldn't have applied for art school, and she may not have been the artist as she is today. Speaking of which, she told me that Eric found her on an alter art Facebook group, and that's what led to her working with Sorcery. If only she knew that she would inspire me to play this game. I got into Sorcery because of the Elementalist card, and I even created the Elemental Throne deck because of her artwork. Fast forward, and Elvira produced 2 APs back to back. One of them being the Immortal Throne, with the Elementalist sitting right there on the throne. She said that the Elemental Throne deck gave her a bit of inspiration to making these AP arts. The second AP is the most important one of them all. That exact AP is what we're going to be opening up today. I've been waiting so long to open this package, and I've been so patient, and it's time that I share this moment with everyone.
A few moments later.
Oh wow, I wasn't expecting to see this. And oh wow, this is so convenient for this right now. Look at this, guys. Look at that. Jeff, thank you for your support and contributions to Sorcery TCG. Your Throne Elementalist deck inspired the great artist proof of Elvira Shakarova, a big part of the alpha history. Enjoy. Wow. Thank you so much, Mike. I really appreciate that. I really wasn't expecting this. Oh my gosh. Dude, I'm gonna frame this. This is so cool. He's already set the bar for us. I'm gonna try not to actually cut what's in this package.
A few moments later.
Oh man, I am so nervous right now. Maybe if I just slide this out. Oh look, we got a little bit more interesting things here. Actually, let me see what this is. This is so cool. I think that this is like one of the promos for Sorcery. I think you get it with dust codes. I could be wrong, but wow, that looks so awesome. So there it is. This is the Elementalist AP. This AP is the first and currently the only AP legal in tournament play. This is a priceless card for me. You see, the artist that inspired me to make this deck, she produced this amazing art partially based off of the deck that I invented. And of course she made this artwork, but this is what we're really here for. Look at that, everyone. Wow. Oh my gosh. It's just absolutely stunning. I saw so many pictures online, and I mean, wow, this is just amazing. Elvira also drew inspiration from an idea. The idea of having an emotionless mask and the person behind it. The elegant avatar transcends the elements and transforms personas behind the mask. Struggle, torment, triumph. An avatar of wonder and awe. Wow. When I asked Elvira what inspires her for her artwork, she sent me this really awesome video. Yeah, she's just awesome. She literally produces these works of art just on the fly. And I mean, Elvira, thank you so much. Like, sincerely, thank you. Well, I'm just gonna put this to the side. I was gonna re-sleeve this, but honestly, I'm just so nervous taking it out of the sleeve. I'm just gonna kind of leave it as is. And so guys, without further ado, I figured I would go ahead and showcase my updated Elemental Throne deck list. So obviously, getting on into it, I have the Elementalist as my avatar, generating one of each threshold, which helps with the concept of the idea of the deck, which is essentially to cast 4 different kinds of elements and to gain as much value as it possibly can. Just leave that right there. So going into my artifacts, I have the 1 Philosopher Stone, and I have the 4 cores. So obviously everyone knows what these cards are. Essentially, the Philosopher Stone makes your cards cost less, and the cores help produce mana and threshold that help you cast your cards. So enough said about those. For my last artifact, I have the namesake of the deck, the Immortal Throne. This is another card made by Elvira, and this card kind of started it all for me next with the Elementalist. When I first saw these 2 cards, I felt like I had to make a deck based off of them. Essentially, when a player plays a card, if it has the same mana cost as the number of level counters on the Immortal Throne will get the counter, and that player gets to draw a card. And if an avatar is alone with the Immortal Throne while it's at 8 counters, you win the game. So essentially, it's a powerful draw engine, and it is a win condition in its own right. So getting on into my minions, I have 1 Highland Princess. Highland Princess is essentially a card that helps me search any of these 1 mana cost artifacts the moment it comes in play, and that's because of its Genesis ability. I also have the Grim Reaper. Originally, when I first started playing this card, I thought it wasn't going to be good, but every single time I play it, it's just very, very powerful. Having lethal, and whenever this kills a minion, it banishes that minion and all copies. This is just a way of how to get rid of multiple copies in your opponent's deck, and you can do a lot of insane shenanigans with that card. So for my other 2 drops, I have 2 Alvalinne Dryads. Also, another card that was produced by Elvira Shakarova. This is basically an Elvira deck, let's be honest. The Alvalinne Dryads are really good because they just provide extra mana. They're essentially another version of a core, but having the 2 mana slot helps with mana curve for the Immortal Throne. Also helps just get out your high cost minions and cards. Playing 4 Apprentice Wizard. So Apprentice Wizard, everyone knows what this does. It has Spellcaster, and with the Genesis ability, you get to draw a card, thus furthering your game plan. Just being able to draw more cards with this deck is absolutely vital. Another Elvira card, we have 2 Selfsame Simulacrum. Basically, it gets to copy any minion that it's nearby. That can get out of hand when you're copying all these Genesis abilities and reactivating them. I have 2 Clamor of Harpies. Another Genesis ability, when it comes in play, it essentially teleports a weaker minion to its location, and you have the option to strike it. There's tons of shenanigans you can do with this. You can just teleport your own weaker minions to its location, but you don't have to strike it. Being able to also play something and also strike a weaker minion is very vital. It's essentially removal whenever it comes in play. So we have one of the stronger minions in this deck, and I actually think that this minion deserves a lot of credit because it just puts in so much work for this deck. We have 3 Daperyll Vampire. So having Airborne and being able to gain life whenever this strikes something is just insane. There were times where I was at 1 life and this card was able to bring me back. Unfortunately, if you're at Death's Door, it won't be able to gain you any life further. But still, an Airborne minion with 4 power and being able to gain you life is just such a good card for this deck. For our other 5 slots, I have, in my opinion, the most powerful card in Sorcery currently next to Philosopher's Stone. So I have Courtesan Thais, a Genesis ability that allows both players to control the previous player during their next turns. This card is just crazy good. Playing this at the right moment, you can essentially take control of your opponent and you can use their cards against them. And being able to control your opponent first is what makes the card just absolutely broken. I have 2 Grandmaster Wizards. Of course, for a 6 mana slot, a Spellcaster, and when he enters play, you draw 3 cards. The card's really good at just digging through your deck, and when you have cards like Selfsame Simulacrum and Apprentice Wizard, as well as the Immortal Throne, if you combo with this card, you can just draw a bunch of cards, and that's what you really want with this deck. For our 7 drops, I have 1 Death Dealer and 1 Ancient Dragon. Essentially, by the time you play these, when you have the Immortal Throne, they essentially win you the game because they will give you the 8th counter. However, if it doesn't get to that point, Death Dealer is just absolutely ridiculous. Having the Genesis ability to destroy all other minions when it comes in play is just really strong. And then Ancient Dragon just being able to be a 6 power flyer and having the ability to tap to deal 4 damage to another nearby unit is really good. You never know when that will be helpful for you. So that's it for my artifacts and minions. This list has stayed the same as my other one. Really the only difference is just the inclusion of Courtesan Thais and the sites. Going on into our spells, I have the 1 Browse, 1 Dream Quest, and 1 Emulation. Browse and Dream Quest essentially dig you through the deck, and Browse lets you see 7 cards on top of your deck, and you get to choose either one to go to your hand. Dream Quest will put a nearby spellcaster to sleep, or an allied spellcaster, not nearby, sorry. But essentially, as long as that ally doesn't take any damage, you can use Dream Quest on your next turn to search your deck for any card, which is really good because this can fetch any card that you need at that moment. And it can also get you the Immortal Throne, which is really the most important card you want to search for. So I have Emulation to deal 7 damage to a nearby target minion. Sure, it needs to be nearby, but removal is removal. So I have 4 Lightning Bolt, probably one of the best removal spells in this entire game, and also a very good finisher when your opponent's at Death's Door, and if there's no other minion at that location, you can use Lightning Bolt to deal 3 damage for a finishing blow. I have 4 Grapple Shot. Grapple Shot is kind of another removal spell, but it allows a unit to shoot a projectile, gets dragged to that location, and it can strike whatever minion's at that location, or unit rather. I really like using this with Grim Reaper because it forces a kill Grim Reaper and it allows you to banish multiple copies. As well as using this with other cards like Daperyll Vampire because you can forcefully gain life with it. Play your cards right and you might even be able to gain a bunch of life with Daperyll Vampire with this card. So for our last part of removal, we have 3 Cave-In. Cave-In's really good when you burrow minions and artifacts, and if your opponent is playing all of these powerful artifacts on their avatar, as long as their avatar is on a non-water site, you can forcefully burrow those powerful artifacts. I use Cave-In to kill 6 minions and 3 artifacts. It's really crazy. There's times where you can just get like an insane amount of value with this card, and if you can even just use this to get rid of 2 cards on the field, it just puts you in the right direction for victory. For our last spell, we have 1 Pact with the Devil. Using this with any of your spellcasters, you can sacrifice a caster, or you can choose to lose half of your life, but this will allow you to draw 3 cards, and it's really insane, especially with Grandmaster Wizard. See, because you can play Grandmaster Wizard, draw 3 cards, and then use Pact with the Devil on the Grandmaster Wizard to draw 3 more cards. Play your cards right, and there's actually another card in here that allows you to use that combo to draw 9 cards. That's when you know the game's going to shift in your direction. The more cards you have, the better your advantages are. Lastly, we're just going to go into the Atlas. So this is really just the part that changed with the deck, and I'm absolutely satisfied with how this Atlas turned out. So I have the Color Out of Space, Smokestacks of Gnog, and then a Geistwood. So these are very powerful uniques. The Color Out of Space essentially gives you one of each threshold, and it can give you 1 mana. So being able to play the Elementalist and then have this on the first turn generates you 2 of every threshold, and that essentially means you're able to cast anything at that point. Sure, you're going to need the mana first, but having to not worry about the threshold is so good in this deck. Smokestacks of Nog is another great way to forcefully negate Sight's abilities. So there are a lot of powerful Sights in this game, and having this to be able to negate their effects are great. You can even play this next to your Color Out of Space, and Smokestacks actually would negate the Color Out of Space's ability. And why that's super relevant is because the Color Out of Space produces no mana or threshold as long as it's not adjacent to the void. If you do have a void spot adjacent to it, then it will produce the mana and the threshold. But if you have Smokestacks, you would negate this effect, and that means that you will always have the threshold and the mana. It's a neat little trick. And so the Geistwood. This was the card that I was talking about earlier, where if you have a Grandmaster Wizard and you have a Pact with the Devil, you can essentially play the Grandmaster Wizard on the Geistwood, draw 3 spells, use the Pact with the Devil to sacrifice the Grandmaster Wizard as its caster, and then you draw 3 more spells. But now here's the added bonus. Since the Grandmaster Wizard technically died on the Geistwood, you would reactivate its Genesis ability, drawing you 3 more cards. It's a really powerful engine, and it draws you 9 cards with just 3 cards. Really valuable, excruciatingly insane. And yeah, we have another unique, the Vaults of Zul. This has been a very good card for me. So the first time an avatar stops here, you skip the next turn and the avatar draws 3 cards. And of course we want just more value. Sure, skipping our turn does seem very risky, and I've done this with aggro decks and I still manage to win, because I feel like valuing the cards, like drawing more cards, gives you the best advantage possible to beating any deck. Because this deck already has what it needs to win, you just have to draw out everything that you need, if that makes sense. And the Vaults of Zul helps with that. So I have Boneyard and I have Roots of Yggdrasil. So Boneyard, when it comes in play, each player summons a dead minion from their cemetery at that location. And that's really good. We have a lot of Genesis abilities we want to reactivate, so it's a very crucial card to have. And then Roots of Yggdrasil, when this card is destroyed, it destroys all other cards in play. If only there was a way how we can forcefully activate that. And there is. I'll get to that in a sec. So for our last unique, we have Mirror Realm. Being a powerful sight, Mirror Realm allows you to copy any sight in play as it enters play. So essentially this will make a second copy of any of these uniques, which is great. You can use it to copy the Vaults of Zul to draw more cards, to copy the Boneyard to bring back more minions. The main reason why we have the Mirror Realm in here is for this sight right here. And it's Sinkhole. This is probably the 3rd most powerful card in the game. See, Sinkhole allows you to get mana and you can sacrifice it to destroy a nearby site. With Mirror Realm, you can essentially have 3 copies, and putting your opponent down on sites while being able to play cards in advance is just really broken. And of course, if you use your own Sinkhole to blow up your Roots of Yggdrasil, the roots will actually destroy everything in play. So you can essentially have a board wipe with both of these sites. It's very powerful, and I do it so often, it's not even funny. Actually, maybe it is funny for me. Not fun for my opponent though. So, continuing on with the Atlas, I have 3 Lighthouse, 3 Oasis, and 3 Ruins. I took some recommendations in taking out a bunch of the Earth threshold sites that I had. Because of how my deck is structured, I don't really need that many Earth sites, which is great, but at the same time while giving me the threshold that's necessary to play my deck. And lastly, the last 3 sites that I have in the deck are 3 towers. So I have 1 Gothic Tower, 1 Lone Tower, and 1 Dark Tower. These will just almost guarantee you getting 2 extra mana when they come in play. A lot of people play multiple copies of these, but I think one is good. See, I've test played before where I'll play a Gothic Tower, gain 2 mana, and if I draw another Gothic Tower, it's kind of just like it's just there, but it doesn't have any value. So having one of each is really good because it guarantees that no matter what, when it enters play, I'm gonna get the double mana, and that can allow some very powerful plays. So guys, that's it for the Elemental Throne deck list. Again, not much has changed, but I figured I had to showcase it with this amazing AP. And of course, this deck is still reigning supreme. I have not lost with it. And yeah, that is the Undefeated Elemental Throne deck. If you're willing to show Elvira some support, I'll leave a link to her Patreon in the description below. And if you're interested in owning your own APs, follow Mike Servati at Collector's Art House. And if you guys are interested as well, you guys can follow the Sorcery TCG group. And yeah, I'll leave the descriptions in the bottom. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Elvira, for making this amazing art piece. I'm completely honored to own this. Thank you, Mike, for getting me this card, and I thank you so much for being able to ship it to me and include all these neat little gifts. I really appreciate it. And of course, thank you, everyone, for supporting this channel. If it wasn't for all of you, I wouldn't be where I am today, and I wouldn't be making YouTube videos. I honestly probably wouldn't have even been playing this game. So again, I thank you guys so much. Well, I hope you all enjoyed this very special deck tech. And yeah, as always guys, have an awesome week.